press the button if you're ready.
Yep.
Cool. So I says to him, "That's not my dinner, that's my drock."
Lots of dirty drock jokes to be made this podcast, I think.
A lot of festering jizz everywhere.
Festering jizz boxes at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no way.
People on that planet saying festering a lot.
Yeah, it's just one of those things like, what was the word that you were really picking on sardonically?
Oh, yeah.
But hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another edition of
the Festering
Tapcaf
Jizz Box
Transmissions
podcast. Oh, yeah, sorry. That's my Tuesdays.
That's the X2 podcast. I think I'm a little bit louder. Okay. Anyways, hello everyone, and welcome to Tapcaf Transmissions, episode 57, 58. We're getting close to the old episode 69, which I think is what this podcast's reputation means.
Now that will be that's when we should do Lost Stars.
Okay, well, we'll do that. But yeah, so we are talking about Planet of Twilight tonight. This is the final book of the Callista Trilogy. So, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
About time. About time.
How long have we been reading the Callista Trilogy? When did we do Children of the Jedi? It's months ago now.
Yeah, it's been a while. I feel good that it's almost over. Yeah, it's been 3 pretty rough books. I'll just say that.
Did we redo the intro? That was terrible. I know you always talk about how much you hate doing intros and how bad yours are, but mine there has to be the worst one of any podcast.
Okay, we can redo. Yeah, sure. We can.
Yeah, I don't want that. I don't want that getting out. That's just for you YouTube people.
Okay.
But I'm not going to do any better this time.
Okay.
So, hello there, and welcome back to Tapcaf Transmissions, the only Star Wars podcast where we do the intro multiple times, but you got to listen on YouTube to see that. We are back here to talk about the final book of the Callista Trilogy. I am your host for this week, Corey. Joining me, as always, is my feckless co-host, Mr. Justin EckhartsLadder. How are you doing, Justin?
Yeah, we're discussing the Festering Jizz Box of Star Wars books today.
Oh, this is much better than last time.
You may think that that's something that I'm saying just to be gross, but that's something the book actually gives us. Which I'm sure we might touch on throughout this podcast.
No, we're gonna get a good handle on the Festering Jizz Box. Don't worry. If there's one thing people expect from this podcast, it's got to be that, right?
Yeah, Festering Jizz Box, discussion of alien love and passion. But yeah, how are you doing today, Corey?
I'm doing good. I read about half of the book today. Or no, I think I've actually read everything after page 70 today. So I had a good chunk of Planet of Twilight today. I don't know how that impacted my day, but I went for a nice walk afterwards. So that was nice.
I did almost the exact same. I was going to start it last night, and I got 7 pages in and I fell asleep. I woke up on my couch and like my neck was like kinked at a terrible angle, and I was like, oh, this book has caused me IRL pain now. And then so it was all that today, and I also went for a walk. My plan was like my daughter, she like won't fall asleep with anyone but me. She'll go to sleep with Kelsey like at night, but for her naps, we always hang out. So I've got like literally 4 hours a day where I'm just like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna read this garbage Star Wars book. Well, let's not show our hand, but I'm gonna read this Star Wars book today. But then for her second nap,
I think we'll disagree a little bit on that.
It was okay. There were parts that I liked.
Yeah.
But yeah, the second nap she didn't fall asleep. So and then I had to go to my dad's to move some furniture. So I was just like I was stressed about this. I was like, oh man, this podcast causing me so much stress. And then I know always after I finish recording it, we spend all of our time just talking about like dumb shit anyway. So
yeah, it's fine. When we get to Thrawn Book 2, though, that's when we're going to need to be really on our games.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Is that how many weeks from that is now? Oh wait, how many weeks from that? Yeah.
That's 3 weeks from now.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, the next week we're going to be. We talked about this off podcast. The plan right now is going to be next week and the week after we'd be doing 2 Young Jedi Knight books, and then that'll let us lead into the Thrawn book coming out the following week. Because normally we do like novel, something else, like a comic, a young reader book, just so we're not doing like full long books in a row, because that's a lot for us to commit to and people who are trying to read along. But I wanted to run a potential idea by you for a substitute there.
Okay.
So rather than doing 2 Young Jedi Knight books in a row, I was thinking I wanted to get a kind of more classically appreciated book after doing Callista for so long. And like I really like we both really liked Alphabet Squadron,
Jedi
but maybe
Prince?
for no.
Okay, sorry.
But like we both really loved Alphabet Squadron. We're going to be doing that and then another canon book coming up. So maybe for people who aren't as into that, that'll be a few episodes in a row where we haven't really done something that's popular within Legends. So I was looking at what we've got, and right under Planet of Twilight on the shelf is a little novel called X-Wing Starfighters of Adamar, which is actually rather short. So what if next week or the week after that we did Starfighters of Adamar instead of one of the Young Jedi Knight books?
Yeah, no, I'm totally for that. So next week or the week after that. Yeah, no, that's fine with me. Should we just do it maybe the week after next, so we kind of have a short book next week, and then
Yeah, that works for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, so cool. We'll be doing Young Jedi Knights next week. That is Jedi Under Siege, I believe we're on. Don't quote me on that. Check the episode listings. And then following week we will be doing Starfighters of Adamar. Week after that we'll be doing the second book of the new Thrawn trilogy. So that's the podcast. Thank you for listening, everyone. Well, before we get into Planet of Twilight, are there any news stories you want to talk about? Anything that's been itching at the back of your mind?
So there is actually something. I saw. Well, I don't know if you saw this, but they've recently announced that they will be releasing some new Star Wars or some old Star Wars Legends books with new soft covers, and they will also be putting some Legends books to audiobook. Unabridged audiobook, which is going to be really cool. I think Shatterpoint is the first one they announced that will be getting an unabridged audiobook. And I think it was can't remember.
I think Path of Destruction is in the first 3 as well.
Yeah, that's right.
It's Shatterpoint, Path of Destruction, and something else. But I forget what the third one was. So I think it's cool that they're republishing these new covers with it, but what's bothering me about it is the form factor. They're different sizes than all of my other Star Wars books, and like I have enough trouble with the hardcovers. I have
as large as a hardcover.
Yeah,
like I just kind of glanced at it. I'm to be honest a lot more excited about the audiobooks.
Yeah,
because they also announced that the next well, it was sort of leaked that the next set of books includes Rogue Squadron. So like X-Wing Rogue Squadron. So I'm kind of hoping that book will finally get the unabridged audio treatment it deserves. Because it was, let me just check. I have it open on a tab here. The next ones are Darth Bane Rule of Two, Dark Force Rising, Plagueis, and X-Wing Rogue Squadron. And all of the books other than X-Wing Rogue Squadron already have an unabridged version. And I believe that's the same for this first release, so it would kind of make sense if this were the book. Yeah. So that's fun.
Yeah.
Also, we can do Shatterpoint sometime soon.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm actually going to buy that version of Shatterpoint, because I think that's one that I haven't reacquired since I've been buying my paper copies again. And after I love Trader so much, and already knowing how much I enjoyed the episode 3 novelization, I have been looking to read Shatterpoint, because I it's the same author,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of looking to see if it kind of fits into that. If he should be going into the pantheon of Star Wars great authors that no one really talks about.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah. Do you know the release date of that?
no.
Okay, we'll have to check that out because maybe we have to slot that into the schedule somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be good. I mean, like
Okay.
after Thrawn, we're kind of clear sailing for a while.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
when's
For
the
sure.
next High Republic book supposed to come out?
Um.
Isn't it like no, I shouldn't just make shit up.
Let me see.
I'm not sure. I won't say it. We hold ourselves to higher standards than that here on Tapcaf Transmissions. High Republic
I mean,
release.
we kind of do. I don't know when the next release, like adult book is. I don't know if they've released Light of the Jedi. Oh my god! I just tried to type while not looking, and
Rising
oh my
Storm is
God.
July 6th.
Okay, so, that's a
So
bit
yeah,
off
that's
still.
still a while off. We should probably throw in some of like the short stories or YA books once we're
Mhm.
done with Young
Yep.
Jedi Knights as well.
Yep.
But yeah, imagine planning this podcast.
No, I like this. I don't. I like to just we're just chatting with my friends. So
Yeah, that's what we're here for. And today we're chatting with our friends about Planet of Twilight.
mhm.
So you did kind of show your hand earlier, but what was? Have you read Planet of Twilight recently, other than this?
um, the last time I actually read the book was probably like 3 or 4 years ago, but I did listen to the audiobook probably 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Actually, you know what? The first time last time, sorry, I read the book would have been I think before I started YouTube. So I forgot a lot of it. I remember the basic kind of plot of the Drox and the
Hmm.
it being generally kind of boring and that stuff. But what about you? What's your experience with this book?
I have not interacted with it in any way in a long time, other than like articles that are related to content in it or any
Hmm.
offhand mentions in like source books and stuff. So I don't know. I kind of went in with very low expectations, and I ended up liking it more than I thought I would, but still not a lot.
Okay.
Uh, I think it might be my favorite of the three Callista books
Okay. I
for
think
some
yeah,
elements of it, but because like Children of the Jedi and Darksaber,
it's better than
uh,
Children of the Jedi. That's for sure.
yeah,
Children of the Jedi is just as brutal in my opinion.
yeah. Like I still don't like any of the characters in any of the three books, but I did kind of like what they were trying, what Hambly was trying to set up here with
Mm.
like the mystery elements. Even though I do think that those ultimately fall kind of flat, I think there's some
Yeah,
elements of fun to that.
I was kind of wondering because I already knew all the secrets because I had read it, and
Yeah.
then they also revisit it in Fate of the Jedi. So I was wondering, like, I assume you figured all of it out pretty
Yeah.
easy or pretty quickly.
Yeah, like some I knew going in, some I didn't realize was supposed to be a mystery.
Yeah.
Even stuff that I didn't know going in, or
Hmm.
didn't remember going in.
Hmm.
So like the fact that I had been aware of it before kind of makes it unfair to judge it on that ground, on those
Yeah.
grounds. But even like in context, there's some stuff that's like super obvious that's
Well, some of it's essentially laid out,
yeah.
like without it being necessarily explicit, like Seti Ashcraft being.
Yeah, so we should probably explain the overall plot a little bit before getting
The plot
too
is a
far into the weeds.
mess,
Yeah,
though.
basically the plot of the story is that there's a planet Namkorios, uh, which has basically three different kind of settler groups on it. There's the old timers, the newcomers,
Mhm.
and the Therans, the listeners.
Mhm.
Uh, so the old timers have been on there for a while. The newcomers were more recent. Uh, no one's allowed to leave the planet or come in.
Mhm.
It's difficult to do that other than on like a one person fighter or also get shot down.
Which I thought was a cool idea. The planet basically has these giant laser cannons that are like they auto target anything that comes in, which is a cool idea. I think it would have been a little cooler though if they had made it like a bit of a more ancient thing. Like these cannons had been around for a long time, and like the like that. I think that would have been more interesting. It's kind of funny though. Do you have the physical copy of the book?
Yeah.
If you look at the cover, do you see what their version of the
yeah? It's the laser cannon from Hoth, and it's tiny. And these soldiers, I don't know where they're supposed to be. Like they're just the soldiers from Hoth. I don't know what they're supposed to be representing from the book, but I'll hold this up so you guys can see if you're not. For those of you watching the live stream now, but yeah, it's the cover art is really just whatever they could find. But yeah, so go ahead.
Because like you could have had the ion cannon on Hoth. Like that would have been. That's kind of. I mean, the gun's nut doesn't seem that large, but that's like a lot closer to what I imagined.
Yeah. So Leia goes on a diplomatic mission, a secret diplomatic mission, to meet with Seti Ashkat, who's a not really an official representative of the planet, but he's kind of seized power there. He has a following in the Rationalist Party, which seems to be a party that exists in the New Republic as a whole.
Yeah, this is kind of weird.
Party politics isn't really something that we see a lot of. Like, generally, senators are shown as acting independently, but we get a few party name drops here.
Well, that's what I was kind of wondering, because, like, at some point, it almost seems like the Rationalist Party is, like limited to Nom Chorios, but then it's like, why do they have so much influence?
Well, they mention, like, Qvarks and a few other people in the Senate as being part of the Rationalist Party, and then there's like the something day party. Yeah, but
I'm gonna assume that it is a larger political party. But like, what I just googled it or wikied it, and it says the Rationalist Party was a political party on Nom Chorios that advocated for liberation of the planet and free trade. I'm just gonna assume that like they talk about the Rationalist Party having like infiltrated like the New Republic's like council, and like it was like dividing the New Republic council. If they were that powerful, you think they could probably just hire a few like a capital ship to bomb the lasers from space.
Yeah,
right.
And Lornar had a fleet there, but yeah. So Seti is basically leading this cult more or less on the planet, and telling them like, oh, you need to break this imposition by the old timers to let stuff get in. For the settlers of the planet, the reason that they're doing it is because they want like medical supplies. They want to be able to sell the stuff they're mining or farming. They want to import some food. So it's set up as like reasonable demands, but they're also the newcomers to the planet. So they're interfering with what the old timers are doing. And the other inhabitants of the planet, we find out, are the Sills, or the spooks, these sentient crystals that no one seems to know are sentient. And it's kind of set up as it's going to be a conflict between those two on whether you should join the New Republic or not, whether you should interact with Galactic Society or not. Leia gets kidnapped while this is happening by Seti. And really, Seti is just taking advantage of these people to get the crystals that that are on the planet. They want Lornar Corporation, which is a starship manufacturer, to come in, crush the planetary defenses, and strip mine the planet. Meanwhile, Dazim, a 250-year-old Drock, which is
a giant bug, basically.
A giant bug, wants to do it so he can spread the Death Seed plague, which is a bunch of Drocks, all over the galaxy and eat people to stay alive longer and
also eat themselves.
Yeah.
While this is happening to Seti Ashkat is also using these new robots. They're like kind of humanoid robots. They use synth flesh and stuff.
Ultimately, end up not mattering at all.
Yeah. So when you first talked about, you sent me that message about the festering jizz box. I thought you were talking about the part where
you'll have to be more specific, Justin.
Yeah, where 3PO talks about how Han Solo had talked about like this young like pop star on Coruscant, and how like one of the freighter captains wanted to get a synth robot that looked like her and do a bunch of sexual acts to her. That's what you're talking about, festering jizz box. I was like,
No.
oh, okay.
Jizz is a type of music in Star Wars, so the term jizz gets thrown around. There's a lot of jizz thrown around in this book.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's basically a few different, not really intersecting plots in this book. Luke is hunting down Callista, who ended up on Namcorios, and that's how the message got to Leia and Luke that Callista told Luke and Leia, stay away, don't listen to Seti, he's full of shit. So Luke goes to Namcorios trying to hunt down Callista and find her after she said, we can't be together, I'm not a Jedi, there's a power imbalance here. His girlfriend from the previous books. Leia's going for this diplomatic summit. Then she gets separated from R2 and 3PO, who have their own adventures throughout the book. And then there's another plot with Han and Lando that kind of intersects more with C3PO and R2. And ultimately, neither of those last two amount to anything. Nothing happens. They find Dala, who comes and kills the Lorenar fleet in the last 10 pages. And then she starts fucking some guy in a conference room. So they do have a kid later. So that's something.
Yeah, that was something I definitely forgot about. So there's sort of this whole crew that's a part of the whole like Seti Ashgad setup. There's a Hutt named Baldorion. There's Seti Ashgad. There is what is the name of Dala's lover again?
How did I forget? It's Vorn Legis or something.
Yeah, Legius or whatever. And then who else?
That's kind of the main.
That's kind of the main cadre.
There's Triselda, who's like Baldorian, and this other woman came to the planet like years and years ago as Jedi, and like with the Callista Trilogy version of Jedi, where they're kind of like independent.
Yeah.
The whole order hasn't really been established in the broader lore yet, so it seems like they're a bit more independent and possibly always assholes. But the planet is like really strong in the Force, so it seems to be like drawing people there.
It is kind of funny to read. Like, it's always funny to read how the Force is portrayed back then, because Leia sees Baldorion using the Force, and immediately she's like, he must be trained as a Jedi, which is like not be my first kind of. But everyone at this point is either a Jedi or a dark Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So should we just get it out of the way? Other than Dala, which we'll talk about a bit, I'm sure. Is there anything at all that happens in R2 and 3PO's?
I didn't read most of it. I'm not going to lie.
Or Han and Lando's that either made sense to you or is worth talking about? Because I feel like we can skip.
This book was really badly written, I thought. Where there's like lots of sections. For one thing, there's lots that's written from the perspective of the characters, but it's like not quite thoughts, and they're not in quotes, but it's just like kind of just like little bits of stream of consciousness thrown in, which makes it a little weird. And just like it's kind of just like a Barbara Hamley thing, where like she doesn't write like a Star Wars book, so like the plot is kind of hard to follow when you're reading it as a Star Wars book. But yeah, the C3PO R2 thing was really confusing. Basically, what happens is when Leia's kidnapped and her Nogri are killed.
Do we even need to do this? It doesn't
they go
matter.
Off on an adventure. Nothing.
It doesn't
happens.
matter. None of it ever connects to anything else, except they end up back in the system and find Dala, or technically, I think it's a different system. Pedagog's Korea, but like none of what they're doing connects to Luke and Leia, except in like very superficial ways later, where I guess they destroy the Lorenar fleet, but the Lorenar fleet only gets there at that point. And there was one thing that I think we need to talk about, though. One thing that came out of the 3PO and R2 story.
Hit me.
I'm going to read you a passage here from a book named Planet of Twilight by Barbara Hamley.
Please do. This is my favorite part of the podcast, when we go to the passages, when we show up with receipts. But okay, go ahead.
Marcopius had been a loyal retainer of Her
I knew
Excellencies,
this.
a good pilot, and as far as 3PO was capable of judging, an admirable young man. Though 3PO personally saw no reason why human remains should not simply be jettisoned, burned, or, for that matter, stewed and eaten by other humans in an emergency, provided they were certified free of harmful bacteria first, and, if possible, aesthetically prepared. He was acutely aware that neither Her Excellency, the young man's family, nor the deceased himself would have considered this send-off at all respectful. Respect and custom being the foundation stone of protocol, 3PO was deeply offended.
Yeah.
There's a lot in this book where 3PO doesn't seem to understand or have a read on things that would be classified as customs, which seems like it should be his wheelhouse. So, but yeah, I think that's all that really comes out of that journey that I thought was worth.
I like that. I knew you were either going to quote that section or the jizz box section, but
yeah, well, the jizz box stands on its own.
I think we should just not elaborate further and let people go into the book on their own and read it.
Yeah.
I don't like when Star Wars books, and I'm reading First Strike, which is a Halo book, where they go too far into how robots think, like, or how AI thinks. Like in First Strike, it'll be like, Cortana turned to her morality subroutines, and I'm like, fuck off. Like, just say like Cortana thought about it, or like Cortana looked through her programming about this. It's like,
that'd be like writing with a human, like their neurons started firing and
right. Or it'll even be like Cortana turned off her morality subroutine. Like, they're portrayed as basically funny people in the movies. Yeah. Like, that's what you should be doing in the books. And like C-3PO, yeah, like he's funny, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, he's very not 3PO in it. Like, all the characters, there's a lot of the pulpier Legends books around this period where a lot of the characters don't really feel like either themselves or a consistent characterization in any way, even within the individual books. We do get some like through lines, like weird, romantically terrible Luke, and that's probably going to be most of what we talk about tonight. But yeah.
I'm trying to think of anything else like on that topic. I guess it is a bit weird. It's I don't know. It's like the C-3PO stuff. Part of this book feels like they had an interesting idea for a short story or something, and then they just made it way fucking longer than it had to be. But yeah, don't do 3PO. Don't do my boy 3PO like that. Yeah.
We do get, so something that comes up a lot in the book as well is how Leia needs to train more as a Jedi, and how she's afraid of kind of becoming Vader if she does. And that actually comes up a lot throughout the expanded universe, and I think it's one of the more interesting, like, family dynamic parts of Leia's character. But there's a line early on in the book where Luke is talking about how she needs to do that training, and mentions how she needs to train with, of all the people at the Praxium, she needs to train with Kip or Tion. Because they're the best.
Do you want to learn to fight or be a musician?
Like Tion gets introduced as like this kind of pity student that Luke brings to the academy to do some bookkeeping for him because she wants to be involved. And like, she's definitely knowledgeable about the lore of the Jedi. She kind of shows her strength in that. But the idea that she's like who you go to for your lightsaber practice, it's kind of weird to me, because I think it happens like twice in this series where she's doing like lightsaber instruction.
Yeah, like, I think it might just be like a name thing where it's like people might know who Tion is, but like, this is where my boy Kyle Katarn, really, they could have slotted him right in here.
Yeah.
Although actually maybe not.
Is he around at this point?
Yeah, not yet, I guess. That's not until later.
Yeah, I don't think he's back yet. But still, if you want some lightsaber practice, you can try to
Well,
hunt him
like
down.
Cam sold you,
Cam,
sir.
for sure.
I guess she's not a. Hold on, my Discord keeps crashing.
That's not good.
Yeah, it just crashed like 3 times in a row. But anyway, she's not a soul user at that point, but Cam would be a better choice because Cam like was a Jedi, like before Luke found him. So I don't know.
Yeah, like anyone who would know Tion would probably know Cam. Like they're in a lot of the same places.
Mm-hmm.
Cam's in more, really, but
Yeah.
There's also a thing.
Say,
Oh, go for it.
I found.
Oh,
Okay, hold on. I might need to call you on Facebook because like my Discord keeps crashing. But there was a really funny description of Callista at one point in the book too, where like she's just described in like the most unattractive way possible, where she's like they like say she's got like the voice of a teenage boy or something, like the
yeah.
raspy voice of a adolescent boy. And I was like, oh, it's like she's long, she's lanky, she's got the adolescent voice of the raspy voice of an adolescent boy. Just imagine Luke is just infatuated with her, and it's kind of funny if you think about it in that context.
Well, the whole book is basically Luke needing to learn not to be a weirdly attached. Like it's basically everything that most teenage boys need to be told about. Like, just if someone says no, no means no, and fuck off. Like she said, don't go after her. She said she doesn't want, like, it's not going to work like this, and he just can't stop himself until the end of this book. He finally is like, oh, maybe I should stop. But like he's talking about how there's no reason to live. This academy will get on without me sometime. And like I get being depressed after someone you love dies. Callista's not dead. He had a breakup a year ago, a relatively amicable breakup, and he's just non-functional. It's sad.
Yeah, it is, and it's like it does kind of remind me of what it's like when you are like 15 and you do have your first breakup, where it's like Leia's like off doing this diplomatic mission like at the beginning of the book, and like she's talking to Luke, and Luke's like, "Sure do miss Callista."
Yeah, this is a year later. He is 32 at this point.
I really do love her. She's like,
Oh
okay, Christ, like, she's like, all right, let me pat you on the shoulder.
Like he went and did this. He didn't tell anyone where he was going. He's so fucking irresponsible. Like his students thought he might have returned and gone into the jungle to meditate. Tell someone what you're doing, you dumbass.
Yeah, this is like they don't go off like mountaineering without at least leaving a note. Like, Luke, please, like, let people know if you're off on an incel adventure.
Yeah, like if Callista had died or something, I could understand being like somewhat like this for a while, but it's not anywhere near what happened. He's the worst. But there was another quote I want to read about Luke's relationship thoughts.
Please
and do. I don't know if you picked up on this, but knew academically there was still some point to his life that his students lead. Here we go. So this is a discussion between Luke and Vorn, I believe. And Vorn saying
when they're like sick and like when he's sick and they're like hiking out of the base or whatever.
Yeah. So Legius is kind of as bad about this as Luke, basically, and they're having their little sad boy hours. And Legius says, "Many years ago, I loved a woman, a girl, really. She was very young. It was like nothing I've known before. So he's talking about Dala, basically. At times it felt almost as if we were brother and sister, two halves of the same whole, and at others it seems our passion for one another colored the world like a firelight." Luke whispered, "I have felt it." There's part of that sentence that Luke very clearly identified with. There's like 3 times here where Luke's weird love for Leia gets referenced. Like, not in spite of their sibling relationship, but almost because of.
Mm-hmm.
And it's creepy.
Yeah, no, it's really weird. Um, it's really weird. Also, did we actually see Mara in this book at all? Because
No,
she gets mentioned, but for a second, I thought at the very end when they're describing Dahl on the shuttle that Mara had showed up, and it
no.
was like because he like talks about her red hair and her green. I'm like, oh, Mara's here.
Yeah, Mara gets brought up because like when Luke crashes the B-wing on the planet, he's trying to tell smuggler stories, and so he just
I
regurgitates
thought
shit
Mara
that
was one
Han,
of the ones
Lando,
that don't they? Isn't Mara like one of the ones who they asked to help search for Leia? I thought it was like Kip, Mara, and Lando, but maybe I'm imagining the Mara.
maybe that was part of the book that I didn't really pay as much attention to. It sounds like something I skimmed.
Okay. Um, I actually kind of liked the end of Callista and Luke though.
I think
Like,
he finally grows up as like, okay, they can leave, but his like the whole book is just Luke whining about wanting to be near her.
yeah, but I just mean like I don't know. It was like if you could imagine for a second that these characters actually did have like a believable love history, like that had spent many years instead of like they spent a couple of weeks together, like and they were messaging each other on MSN for a bit. Like that would have been a nice send off, I think. Like them have just waving, but
How many hearts do you think was in like do you think they were at the point where they had each other in their like sub status, or was it like directly in the name? And how many hearts?
I think it would have been. I think they probably just had shortened versions of their name. Well, I guess it's hard to shorten Luke and Callista, but and then it would have been like belong to, and then like whatever song they're listening to. That's kind of
Hmm.
what I remember from MSN back in the day.
I'm not even sure how many people listening will get any of these references. I don't know how old our audience is. I've never really looked at the analytics, but should probably
Hmm.
move on then.
Yeah. Okay, I'm fine with that.
No more
So,
MSN talk on Tapcaf Transmissions.
if there was a band, were you big into MSN?
Yeah,
Like for me, that was every day. Come home
yeah,
every day, turn on MSN. It was like basically hanging out with your class or your friends after school. It's like, oh, who's on?
yeah. Like I lived pretty far out, especially from high school. I went out of my zone, so because I kind of lived out in the country, and me and my sister ended up going to the high school that my mom went to. So I lived nowhere near anyone that I went to school with. Even the high school I was supposed to go to, I didn't really live near anyone who went to it.
Mhm.
So unless I was specifically making plans to go hang out with someone, which would have been like a whole thing where I need to get a ride way out to the city,
Mhm.
then it was all MSN. That was my only access to the outside world.
Did you ever do that thing where like the girl you had a crush on would be online, so you'd like you were all online for a bit, so you'd like log out, then log back in, so she'd see your name pop out up?
No.
Oh, whatever. Just pretend I'm the weird one.
I know a lot of people who definitely did that.
I mean, it was just like, oh, maybe she didn't see me because like people would have like 100 MSN friends. You'd log on, be like, oh, now she knows I'm online. Maybe she'll message me. Maybe she'll give me a little nudge.
Oh yeah. I think nudges were like closer to the end of
Yeah.
MSN.
Well, there was like remember there was MSN Plus where you could like
Mm.
get like different nudges and stuff. But yeah, then they carried some of those features over. But yeah, those were good times. Definitely a lot of definitely like some real drama there on MSN though back in the day. Fuck, I've got logs of my MSN saved somewhere and I can't find them, and it breaks my heart. I really want to see those things.
Yeah, I think I have the logs of the conversation I was having with the Empire War modder who tried to dox me. But I think that was on MSN.
Hmm.
And once I learned you could have like different accounts signed in, because I had like the modding stuff, then I had my like real life stuff.
Hmm.
So that was a real
Yeah,
game changer for me. I'm trying to remember if that was MSN or Skype, but
I wasn't cool enough to be working on Empire War mods at that time.
I've been doing this for way too long. We did actually. There was someone who was on the team who left the team. We were like 14 at the time. Who left the team and rejoined under a new name and new account. That we realized it was them because they would log off of one account and then log into the other one. Yeah, those were the days.
I remember my friend Bruce. He had one of those cases where he had a girlfriend, but she was from the next town over, or the next province over, or she was actually from out west. Apparently, that's what he said. He's like, yeah, she's from out west. I see her all the time. That's why you guys just haven't seen her. We're like, oh, okay, Bruce, sure. And then it turns out basically that she added a couple of us on MSN or whatever, and it turned out no, it wasn't a girlfriend from out west. It was an online girlfriend, and then she started talking to all of us, and my buddy Mike in particular. So they talked to a lot, and then it turned out that it was actually just my friend Daniel. I'm like, that's kind of weird too on your end, like you've made one of our friends fall in love with you. You're pretty committed to it. He probably gonna need therapy now. Oh man,
people are...
yeah,
do the dumbest shit.
It's the same Dan that we had like this big group of friends forever. Still most of them.
Which is the one that moved away for a while?
Yeah,
Tim.
It was one day, like Dan was supposed to come to flag football, and we went to go pick him up, and he was just gone. He moved to Newfoundland. He just left.
Hey, when you gotta go.
I remember another case with Dan where his mom picked us up from school, which I live in the suburbs. Like my school was like a 30-minute walk, so if that, they picked us up just with the idea that we were just gonna go to Dan's house. Turns out she's like, okay, because she was a Newfoundlander. I'm not gonna try to do the accent, but she's like, okay, we're going shopping buys. So we spent 2 hours in Old Navy and not Forever 21, Old Navy and like American Eagle and stuff, and just trying to buy jeans. And Dan specifically wanted painter jeans, which I'm pretty sure are just jeans with a little like thing you can put a paintbrush in. And it was just like 2 hours, and now like still to this day, it's like anytime anyone mentions painter jeans, it's just like.
Does that happen a lot?
Yeah. Well, no, like we'll mention it to like okay, Dan, go off and get some painter jeans or whatever. Yeah. All right. That's enough. Enough boring stories for my life.
All right. Callista leaves. We see her again. Callista will return in Legacy. So will Vorn.
Fate of the Jedi.
It's Fate of the Jedi. And Vorn comes back in Legacy of the Force in Revelation, I think.
He dies, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he explodes off screen and Dal is sad about it or something. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, Callista gets fucked by Abeloth, I think is what the book says. Because she's being possessed when Luke shows up. Yeah. So like one thing about Nam Chorios, which is the planet they're on, is that if you use the Force, it's like, I guess it's like magnified by the crystals. That's kind of how I took it.
Yeah. And
so you use the Force, and then like there's these big storms, which I think there's another book that does that. I can't remember which one. So Luke is actually not that careful about it at all.
No.
Like I
don't think anyone ever actually tells him, like, hey, cut it out. He figures it out, but no one ever tells him like, hey, that's not very epic. Can you stop?
Yeah. Right. But he knows, like he kind of realizes he probably killed somebody. But then when he's in the fight with the Drox in that corridor, he's like, well, in for a penny, in for a pound.
Yeah.
He's like, I made one Force store. Might as well make a bunch more. It's like, Luke, like, no. Like, you're going to kill more people.
It is kind of great that all this happens just because, like, Beldorian wanted a yummier meal.
Yeah, so that's one thing we didn't mention. The Drox are basically created because Beldorion was like messing with some advanced food creation.
Yeah, well, the Drox always existed, but
Yeah.
Jazim, the one who's trying to like organize the Drox to wipe out the galaxy, only comes about because, and he's like 250 years old, so Beldorian's been doing this for a while,
Yeah.
which means he must have been there for a while, which means Triselda would have been there for a while, and they're still alive either way.
I assume she's using the Drock anti-aging
Yeah,
stuff.
probably. But Dazim, is that his name? Have I been?
It's I forgot how they say it in the audiobook because I did listen to a bit of the audiobook. They say it Gem, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gem.
Gem, yeah, I think they say Gem.
Gem.
You can watch my Twitch stream from yesterday when I was playing Halo and listening to the book.
Gem is he's created by Beldorian's cook, who we're told has a gift for putting some basically growth hormones into different berries and insects and making them get really big and live longer. And this happens to a Drock, which somehow makes it eventually grow up into a humanoid figure. So yeah.
It's like not even that, like, because they also talk about like how the new cook was like having the Drock eat doo doo. Like the Drock don't normally eat this doo doo, but we're gonna feed it to them and see what happens.
What can go wrong?
Yeah, it's like that could be how like coronavirus started. Like someone was trying to get a bug to eat another bug, and then like now I can't go see my friends anymore.
I don't think that's what happened.
Yeah.
It was probably Hutt related in some way, but
yeah, I believe it. I believe it.
So what did you think? What do you feel about the crystals? Are you pro sentient crystals?
Star Wars has a lot to do with sentient rocks, because aren't there also the Iron Knights? They're different, right?
Yeah, well, there's Geode and New Canon now.
Yeah.
Which for some reason Legends fans got really like high and mighty about that. It's like I got some bad news for you guys. But I actually don't mind it that sensitive much.
Yeah. There do be sapient rocks in Star Wars.
Like space is a big place. There's no reason to expect that life is going to be that recognizable when we find it everywhere. So I mean,
like Iron Knights are arguably a lot more ridiculous than any of the others because they're like crystals and robot bodies fighting as Jedi.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind it. I like the idea. I do think it's, I don't know, part of like, I think at the end where they're like flying around and shit, like that's like I was having trouble following. Yeah,
it's basically like Ceruvian Tetman.
Yeah.
At that point, where all the crystals are upset that their buddies are gone.
Yeah. I mean, Luke also straight up lies, saying he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna help you guys. Don't worry. Just like, are you though, Luke? Are you gonna help get all the crystals back?
It never comes up again, so I assume no. Like he's making.
Are we just gonna hope the crystals find their way back?
He's writing checks he can't cash. Like
yeah,
that he has no.
I feel like that is brought up in Fate of the Jedi again, because the crystals are like they're getting because Abeloth. She's like, from what I remember, because Abeloth gets more powerful the more like despair there is. So I'm pretty sure like the crystals are magnifying that or some shit, and it's like that's brought up. I don't know. We'll get there in 30 years when we're reading Fate of the Jedi.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, because she's chilling on Nom Chorios, and it's still this. I'm pretty sure at that point, like the New Republic's put a goal in around the planet, like don't come here. It's
so
shit.
when the needles are doing that, there was like the vision of SETI surrounded by the synth flesh droids. And at first I thought like, oh, well, their brains are powered by like the crystal network. So is that the same kind of crystal or what we see is what we're seeing right
Yeah, I
now?
don't
The
think
robots
so.
attacking him, but it did. Then there's like, oh no, it's actually the fighters. So
Yeah.
I felt like that would have been a better payoff for the whole synth flesh droids that, again, literally went nowhere. I'm not
The
sure what
the
they were
whole
doing there.
problem is there's too much stuff with crystals. You got the big crystals controlling the synth flesh droids, because unlike most droids that have like their own central processing units or whatever, these are kind of like battle droid style where they all get controlled by like a crystal in a room. And then there's like the crystals it's like the same crystals in the caves and stuff and on the planet, and then there's the crystals flying around. Kind of hard to keep it all straight.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah.
There are parts that just kind of read like a fever dream.
Yeah, no, there definitely are.
Uh,
There
I
definitely
don't know.
are.
Parts of it just get kind of hard to follow, but a lot of
Hmm.
that is probably also skimming the other parts that just
Yeah,
didn't.
I don't know. I do think like the full like what's going on in the entire sector is a little bit confusing. Like the stuff on the planet is pretty straightforward.
Mhm.
Like I think the idea is pretty straightforward, but then like everything that Han is doing and like what Dahl is doing, all that stuff, I think is a little more confusing.
Well, Dahl is leading her little farming syndicate, so
Hmm.
of former Imperials. Not really clear how big the fleets either of them are sending are.
No.
Uh, it can't be that big because Dahl's got like she's bragging about how she's got like 3,000 people. Like,
Hmm.
okay, you've got what, a lancer?
Yeah, and this is also one of those books where like everything's just a cruiser or
Yeah,
a like they get the New Republic. They're called battleships in one case, and they're like escort cruisers or
yeah.
like
Star
yeah.
Wars is just throw names at things.
I was happy to see E-wings mentioned by name. Yeah,
We
pretty
got
epic.
some silver space tape as well.
Yeah, a lot of space tape.
There was
A
a
lot of
definite
space tape.
red green joke thrown in there, but
Was there really?
I like to think of it as one, but no.
Oh, I didn't pick up on that.
How silver space tape was used for everything, everywhere, which is just a common thing with tape, like duct tape. But for me, it'll
Yeah,
always be red green.
I mean, red green would have been at like the peak of its popularity at that point, I believe. Red green was like early '90s, so
Yeah, but I don't know how much that went outside of Canada.
true. That's true.
But anything we should? I guess we should move on to Leia.
Do we
Uh,
have to? Like, dude, do we have to?
well, we need to touch on Beldorian, Big Hutt
Okay.
Jedi. There we go. We touched on him.
Looking kind of sexy. I do like how one line is he didn't have Jabba's obesity,
Hmm.
which I thought was nice.
He did a few pretty agile things.
Yeah.
Leia kills him. I think this is the first time Leia kills anyone with Jedi skills.
Mm, she kill anybody in the Thrawn trilogy?
I don't think she kills anyone with a lightsaber in it or with a force.
I'm
She
trying to
probably
think of
shoots
when
someone.
she's. Doesn't she throw her lightsaber at somebody when she's escaping Kashyyyk? Remember they're like under the
Like cut a
city.
vine. Yeah, I think she does cut a vine there when
I
they're
thought she
like
like threw something at like a no grease speeder or something.
maybe. We have to do our reread episode, our reread episodes of
Hmm.
the Thrawn trilogy with the
Yeah,
new covers.
definitely changes everything for me as an audiobook reader or listener.
And
Um, I gotta
me
say,
with my
I
Kindle.
I think the cover of the book is a little, or not the cover, the picture of Beldorian that's I think from the Reader's Companion is kind
Yeah.
of lame because he's described as more of like a snake because he's very very long and he's not fat like most Hutts, like he's muscly. Um,
Well, he
so
calls himself a fat slug multiple times. So,
yeah, I think that was just self-deprecating humor though.
hmm,
He's like, I may be an old fat slug, but
I'm still Beldorian.
they say he's. I think they say he's like 30 feet tall or something. Like, don't
I
they say he's
thought
like 10 meters?
I thought it was only like 7 meters.
It's still
I
like
mean, that's still
20,
long,
20
but
23 feet or whatever.
yeah, he's a pretty long boy.
Like Jabba's what? Jabba's like 10 feet long. I guess if he's fully laid out, he's a bit longer than that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I guess.
Jabba's a bit stubbier than him.
Yeah. Girth.
Mm.
Just the big girthy slug.
All right.
Delicious. Did you like the creepy scenes of like Zim or Kim, whatever his name is, taking off his shirt and he's got like little mouths there?
Yeah, no.
Okay. I like that. I thought it was kind of creepy.
I don't like extra mouths on anything.
Okay.
Can't trust it.
Yeah, fair enough. That's why I liked that part, and I wish they would have focused on that a bit more. Like, just cut some of the out of system stuff, focus on like that's why I think it would have been a lot more interesting if it would have been like not like I'm not trying to make it the flawed, but if it would have been like these were this kind of isolated like disease that's locked away on the planet, and these ancient cannons are the only thing keeping them from escaping. But
Yeah. I do think there's a lot with the like Han and 3PO stories that just didn't need to be there because they didn't do anything. But it almost felt like just needing to do it so that all of the like Han, Lando, R2, 3PO, all the movie characters are in some way. Like, you don't got to do that.
No, not every book needs to have Han. Han adds very, very little to this book.
Yeah. So before we get into our questions, where are you putting this?
Did I put both other books? I don't have it in front of me. I think I put both other books in D. This is a D for me as well.
Yeah, I'm going with D as well. I think I still like it better than at least Champions of the Force.
But like, I don't know. Champions of the Force is at least decently well written. It's just so boring.
I don't know if it is well written.
I shouldn't try to convince you.
I don't know if Champions of the Force is better written than this. And like again, any redeeming qualities for the Jedi Academy trilogy, just read Jedi.
Yeah.
There's no other book I can point you to. Like, part of what I'm thinking when I'm doing my ratings are like, what are you getting out of that book? Like, are you getting something out of that book that you can't get somewhere else as well? Like, is it worth your time investment? And it's very hard for me when I think I have iJedi. It might even be in my S tier. I'd have to look again. But it's either A or S. And it's hard for me, doubly hard for me to recommend spending the time reading the Jedi Academy trilogy when so much of that you get in a better form from reading.
Yeah, but if I want this story, I'll just ask my 2.5-year-old son to tell me about a bug, and he'll probably make shit up like that.
Well, there you go. Then that's nice too.
Like, that would at least be C tier if he manages, because usually he's throwing Darth Vader's into most things that he talks about. So
yeah, but I don't know. That's just another thing that lowers my already low opinion of Champions of the Force, where
always bringing it back.
I'm trying to think of what book I'm going to put lower than that. Maybe Crystal Star.
I think I'm going to enjoy Crystal Star more than this because it is dumb like this, but at least it's mostly self-contained to like the space station and the Crystal Star, and you get some interdimensional shit, which is it's dumb, but it's kind of funny and weird.
I don't know. I
imagine Crystal Star is going to be shorter than this too. I
don't think it is. I think it looks like a pretty hefty one, but it might be like smaller type or something.
No.
Hold on. It's sitting behind me.
It's only 309 pages.
Okay. This is 340, I think.
My version was 388. I read I got the pre-Legends banner one of this.
Yeah, me too.
Publishing date was. I get the 97
No,
one. Sorry,
this is the one that I have my receipt in. Not my receipt.
this is the original one. I think.
This was originally sold at a bookstore that no longer exists at a time when phone numbers had 7 digits.
Hmm.
Oh, here we go. February 5th, 1998. Or possibly
That was the publishing
May
date.
2nd. No, this is when the book was originally purchased.
Oh, right, because you got yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
at 12:15 p.m. Someone went and
is that a stamp? Did you say?
no, this is the original receipt from
Oh, you get that when
Smith Books Gloucester Center.
Oh, how did you get that? Did you buy this one online or what?
I think I bought this used somewhere, and whoever sold it still had their receipt in the front. I don't think this was ever read before me, and I didn't even I'm pretty much just read the Kindle one.
Mine's been pretty well loved.
Like there's one kind of crack in the spine, but I think I did that.
Let's see what we got in the back. What do you have in the back for your previews? I've got oh man, we got some real winners here.
Paradise Snare. Oh, this is a Rebel Dawn preview. Shadows of the Empire. Cruciate Bakura.
Yeah, I got that.
X-Wing.
I think we might have the same.
Courtship, Heir to the Empire, Jedi Academy Trilogy, Darksaber, Planet of Twilight, Children of the Jedi. I think it's just all the New Rebellion as well. Okay, maybe that's going lower than Champions of the Force.
New Rebellion's really bad, and the whole it's one of those books where it's like the premise is like for part of it is like an annoying like sitcom premise where it's like despite everything Han Solo has done, he's probably the one who bombed the Senate. It's like, why would he do that? Like, no one's acting rationally, and that's the most that I find that really frustrating. Like to watch and like it'll be just be like in any like sitcom or like whatever where it's like the guy thinks his girlfriend's cheating on him because he like walks in and she's giving her cousin a kiss on the cheek or whatever. Just like,
hey, if it's Luke, then you never know.
Yeah. It do be like that.
So we got 3 emails for this week.
One last thing I want to mention is I did chuckle a bit when Leia was having visions of teenage Anakin.
Luckily, he'll never make it that far. So our first email, well, earlier we had an email that Aiden wants you to stop bringing up Winter and Akbar, which hadn't come up in this episode yet until Aiden's email.
Yeah.
So,
well,
Aiden's fault.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say at that beginning when Winter, because they go on like vacation with Winter, of course, because they can't watch their own children, and
well,
I bet you the New Republic fleet would have had to make a stop by. They're on one of Coruscant's moons, I think. Yeah.
Then first question for this week comes from Cedric.
Hello, Cedric.
Says, "Hello, Tapcaf. I want to buy some of the NJO books. What are your favorite NJO books?"
This is on you. You've read them recently. I'm gonna defer to you.
Yeah. So I actually mentioned at the start of the podcast that Traitor is really good. I don't know if it's one that you can read as easily out of context because there's a few that
read Vector Prime.
Like if you kind of know what's going on, like it's one of the standalone ones technically, but like Jason's story there does relate a lot to what he talks about in Vector Prime, but also a lot of what kind of Bergier's stuff is in Star by Star. So if you generally know what's going on in the war, then I'd say you could go like Vector Prime to Traitor. Traitor is really good, in my opinion.
Where he's being tortured, right?
Yeah, that's where he's being tortured, and Vergier's setting up like the whole philosophy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where I mentioned last time with Alphabet Squadron and Victory's Price that it was that Victory's Price is one of the few Star Wars books that kind of stuck with me and I actually thought about the stuff that's
Mm-hmm.
implied by it, or just the themes that it's talking about beyond just like closing the book, which
Yeah,
again, very rare for Star Wars stuff. And I think Trader's one of the other ones from Legends that does that. Uh, and
that's
that's
fair.
actually something with this book that kind of highlights the poorer side of Star Wars trying to do that,
Mm-hmm.
where there's with the situation with the newcomers and the old timers, there's actually something interesting there,
Yeah, there is.
but it's just such a huge cop out. And I knew like the second that comes up, you know what's going to happen. It's going to be one of the sides is being taken advantage of. They're never going to address any part of the root issue here, and it's just going to
Mm-hmm.
be like tossed aside because Star Wars never really ends up addressing anything like that
Mm-hmm.
very well, and that's what happened. Uh,
Yeah, there was also like kind of an interesting, like they could have discussed like, because the basic way it's presented at the beginning is that this one faction is overly religious and they're zealots, and basically because of them large portions of the population are being screwed over. There's a question of whether like the New Republic should help or not. But yeah, it ends up of course being that no, there's actually ancient bugs and stuff.
yeah. Uh, Another set of books for NJO would be Aaron Alston's. I think they are the Edge of Victory
Enemy
books,
lines, oh
or
yeah,
yeah, and
right.
the ones that are about the Battle of Borlaeus,
Hmm.
uh, Rebel Dream, and
You
Rebel
get to see
Stand.
Lucy, you get to see Lucy, Lucy's
Yeah,
last moments.
yeah. I think those are some that you can read if you enjoyed like the X-wing books, just two standalone. I've done a bunch of lore videos just from
Hmm.
stuff in there because I really like those two.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add because it's been so long. So
Then we got a couple Thrawn questions. So the first is from David, who asks, why didn't Thrawn make more of an effort to utilize super star destroyers and other large dreadnoughts? There were several left in the galaxy by the time of his campaign, for example, Nighthammer, Reaper, Megador, Dominion. Was he just unaware of their existence, or was it a conscious decision to not try to acquire one?
just didn't really have them. Like like well, it talks about it in the Essential Guide to Warfare about how Thrawn left most of the Imperials to defend their own territory,
Hmm.
so he could kind of go on his little crusade around the galaxy. Um, yeah, that's he was pretty moving pretty fast, hitting pretty hard. I think
Yeah.
for most of it, a Super Star Destroyer would have slowed him down.
Yeah, like Thrawn would have generally, if you would go from the assumption rather than like, oh, it just hadn't really been established in universe that the Executor wasn't one of a kind.
Yeah,
Uh, if you go from the idea that it is there, generally the explanation is like Thrawn had his kind of pick of the litter from all the stuff that was around, and he chose stuff that fit better with the idea of like he could
yeah.
hit wherever he wants, be able to spread out his forces more, be more flexible with what he's doing.
I will
But
say though, even in Return of the Jedi, they acknowledge that there's more than one Super Star Destroyer because Han says, "Calm down, Luke. There's lots of command ships." I
yeah,
mean, I guess that doesn't necessarily mean Super Star Destroyer, but yeah, I
yeah,
like Thrawn doesn't lose space. Like Thrawn doesn't really lose any space battles. I mean, you could say he lost Louis Van, but not really. He doesn't really lose at Bilbringi. He's killed,
yeah,
but like there's not really much that a Super Star Destroyer would have changed because he trounces the New Republic pretty
yeah.
much. There's that one battle with Beliblis where like he doesn't get the overwhelming victory because Beliblis gets away. But even then, it's like that's not a case where a Superstar Destroyer would have helped because he's just got a few ships. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just to jump back quickly to the previous question, Camp Piven chat is asking, or sorry, Ethan is asking, why not Star by Star? I do really like Star by Star, but I feel like Star by Star you kind of have to
Yeah.
read with other stuff because it's so related to like how the
Hmm.
war's gone and how it's going to be going. Like if you're just kind of jumping in specific books, then I don't think Star by Star is the best for that because it's like so tied into the broader plot.
So watch
Uh,
101 Dalmatians, same story basically.
yeah. Um,
Watch the Michael Vick dog fighting documentary, basically the same thing.
Our final question for the night comes from Joel, who is asking, since it seems Dave Filoni is going to be wrapping up Thrawn's arc post Return of the Jedi, do you think he'll embrace any of the aspects of the Zahn books or stick to his own thing? Personally, I think Filoni might mention a few things from the Zahn books, and even Thrawn's motivations of protecting the galaxy from threats in the unknown region, only because if they can bring up an obscure character like Cobb Vanth, I don't see why Filoni might not cherry pick elements from Zahn's Thrawn books, even if at the end of the day Thrawn is unquestionably the villain of the so-called Mandoverse that he's shepherding. I do think that when it comes to the Grist storyline, Zahn will be more likely to wrap that up himself, and that won't get mentioned in the TV side of things. But what do you think? Will Filoni embrace elements of that or not?
We've talked about this before a few times. The other thing we really have to go off of is Star Wars Rebels, where he's unambiguously a villain.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think that's probably the approach that he'll take going forward.
Yeah, I feel like anything that's going to be drawn as a hero or anti-hero or whatever else is going to be kept more to the book side and more on his dealings within the Chiss. Mm-hmm. Whereas outside of that, he's an Imperial fighting for the Empire. And his reasons for joining the Empire may exist and may tie into similar stuff to Legends, like fighting to protect stuff. But it'll probably be more akin to original Thrawn trilogy, where he was just Imperial baddie doing Imperial baddie things. Like maybe there'll be some allusion to it, but I don't think they'll muddy the waters too much with trying to go too far in the Thrawn apologist direction.
No, I agree. I think that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But I think that's pretty much it for tonight. Do you have anything else you want to talk about before we wrap her up?
Nope. Think that's it. Next week is a Young Jedi Knights book, which I believe, again, is Jedi Under Siege. I'll have to double check the previous episodes, but it's whichever one follows the previous one we did.
Yeah. Also, sorry, I just remembered something. I don't know why I interrupted you. It's just a train of thought that came. They call it Zim in the book. That's what they call
Zim?
it.
Okay.
Because I remember being confused the first time. Like, why are they talking about Zim the Despot? Sorry, I don't know why.
Invader Zim.
It's just, yeah, exactly. Sorry. Continue.
Then week after that, we will be doing Starfighters Vatamar. Week after that will be Thrawn book. So, yeah. We've actually got the next month or so of content planned for once.
Yeah.
Because following the Thrawn book, we'll probably have a week where we do another Young Jedi Knights book.
Yep.
But we do need to get to the end of that.
Oh, do we talk about the Bad Batch trailer at all?
We did last week.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that was part of the Q&A episode.
Right. Yes, that's right. Okay, then I'm good. I'm going to say goodbye, everybody. Thanks for watching or listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.